We are going to do Merchant of Venice Act 3 Scene 1 in this video. Now before starting this scene, just to remind you, in Act 2 Scene 9 we have seen that the Prince of Aragon had come to select the caskets and he had chosen wrongly. So he lost Portia. In Act 3 Scene 2 we are going to see Bassanio come to choose the casket, and basically this is one of the most important scenes of the play where we see Portia and Bassanio uniting. So between two very important choices, between two very important scenes, we have this scene, Act 3 Scene 1, as a filler. So basically this is filling the gap in between the time when Aragon goes and Bassanio comes. Besides being a filler, this scene is also important because this is like a chorus scene. Chorus scene is a scene in which the dramatist is trying to give the audience some information about the background of the play. See, it is not possible for the dramatist to show everything that is happening in the story on the stage. So, some occurrences, some incidents are reported to the audience by some of the characters. And in this drama, we have always seen that Solanio and Salarino have always played the role of chorus. They have always informed the audience about what is going on in the background of the story. So here also once again we see that Solanio and Salarino are discussing about the fortune of Antonio. They are talking about what had happened to Antonio, and also what could be the consequences of Antonio's losses in the business. So before we go into the choosing of Bassanio's casket, we are going to get some information about Antonio's losses in this scene. So this scene takes place at a street in Venice, and we have at the beginning only Solanio and Salarino. Salarino comes in and he says, what news on the Rialto? So what is the latest information available in the Rialto? What is the matter that people are discussing about in the Rialto? Salarino gives the answer. He says, why it yet lives there unchecked that Antonio hath a ship of rich loading wrecked on the narrow seas. So there is a report, and the report is unchecked, that means unconfirmed. So in those days you can understand that they did not have newspapers or television reporters to confirm some occurrence. Therefore these kind of news about some losses, some accidents were unchecked until someone of the survivors, or maybe someone who had seen it occur, come and report about it. So there is a news in the Rialto which is unconfirmed about a rich ship loaded with goods coming to the port of Venice was drowned. Where was it drowned? It was drowned in Goodwins. Goodwins is basically located in North Sea, by the coast of England, and it is believed to be a flat place. See, it is written, I think they call the place a very dangerous, flat and fatal. That means the place is quite shallow, and generally maybe during the night times, particularly during the high tides, the sailors did not notice the flatness of that region, the shallowness of the region, and when the ships entered that region they got struck. Sometimes they were overturned, wrecked, drowned. So that was a region in the sea which was quite dangerous for ships to pass through, where the carcasses of many a tall ship lie buried, as they say. So also they have heard the news that Goodwins is so dangerous that many ships have earlier sunk there, and the dead bodies, carcasses means dead bodies, the dead bodies of many ships could be still seen floating in that region of shallow sea called Goodwins. So they are afraid, they are nervous that their dear friend Antonio's ship might have also met the same fate, got drowned in Goodwins. If my gossip report be an honest woman of her word. In the last part of the speech, Salarino is personifying gossip. He is personifying gossip as a woman. Now why? Because we all realize that although this is absolutely untrue, but it is believed that women love to gossip. No, it's absolutely not correct, because everyone loves to hear stories of gossip. But here it is highlighted, it is explained that gossip is a woman, and if this woman is at all true, then Antonio is surely having a big loss. Now Solanio immediately says, I would she were as lying a gossip in that as ever napped Ginger or made her neighbors believe she wept for the death of a third husband. So Solanio says, he continues that same personification of gossip as a lady, and he says that I truly believe that this lady is absolutely a liar. Now, in order to show a liar, he uses two comparisons. He says that I expect this gossip to be a woman who napped Ginger. Napped means chewed. Now, napping Ginger has multiple meanings, multiple explanations that can be given. In one sense, it can mean that when you eat something and it is having a foul smell in your mouth, by chewing some things like ginger, etc., it removes the smell. So this woman is hiding what she has eaten by chewing a piece of ginger. Or maybe sometimes it was believed in those days that people used to enhance their desires by chewing ginger, particularly women. So when Solanio says that I expect that she is a woman who chewed ginger, and also she pretended to cry at the death of her third husband, he is clearly meaning that this woman is a hypocrite and a liar. Well, if she has been strong enough to get over the death of her first husband, second husband, and marry a third time, then definitely she is strong enough to get over the death of her third husband and marry a fourth time. So crying over the death of her third husband is absolutely meaningless. So she is just a liar, and Solanio expects that this information they got from the Rialto is also a liar's information. It is not a truth. But it is true without any slips of proxility. However, it is very unfortunate that Solanio says it is true. The information is true without any chances of mistake. There is no chance of mistake in this news or crossing the plain highway of talk that the good Antonio, the honest Antonio, oh that I had a good title enough to keep his name company. However, without any doubt, without any confusion, to speak very clearly, I can say that Antonio is going to suffer losses. Our dear Antonio, our good Antonio, oh, I just don't have proper adjectives to add to his name. He is such a nice person. I really don't have words to describe his niceness. I think he has faced losses. Solanio says, come, the full stop. Okay, now stop this discussion. Solanio says, ha, what sayest thou? Why, the end is he hath lost a ship. So Solanio says that yes, to conclude, I must say that Antonio has lost a ship. Salarino says, I would it might prove the end of his losses. So I hope that only a ship, only one ship is lost and he does not have any more losses. Solanio says, let me say amen betimes, lest the devil cross my prayer, for here he comes in the likeness of a Jew. So Solanio says that you must have seen that whenever a prayer is uttered in Christianity, people say amen. Amen means so be it. Whatever I have prayed, so this be true. So because Salarino makes a prayer that Antonio's losses should stop by the loss of one ship, with the loss of one ship, Salarino immediately says, I am going to say amen after that, so that this desire is fulfilled. Otherwise, I can see that the devil himself is coming to destroy our prayer, to kill our prayer in the form of a Jew. So here we see the racial prejudice that Solanio and Salarino has. We have repeatedly seen these two characters abuse Shylock, and we have also seen other characters like Gratiano speak a lot against Shylock just because of his religion. So calling Shylock a devil is a part of their racial prejudice. We see Shylock entering the stage. Celanio says, "How now, Shylock? What news among the merchants?" Shylock says, "You know none so well as you of my daughter's flight." So Shylock is not interested about what is the news among the merchants. He is more interested about his daughter's missing. We all know that Jessica has run away with Lorenzo, and Shylock, when he came back to his house after that party which Bassanio had thrown, he must have been shocked to find Jessica missing with so much of gold and other things stolen from his house. So he comes and directly charges Celanio and Celarino and says, "I am sure you know it very well that my daughter had eloped or run away with someone." Celarino says, "That is certain. I, for my part, knew the tailor that made the wings she flew withal." So Celarino says that, "Yes, of course, I know that." So he's not even trying to hide. He is rather proud that he has helped his friend to run away with Jessica. He says that, "I knew the person who ran away with Jessica." And he uses a metaphor here. Flight is normally associated with birds. So Jessica has flown away. But if you want to fly away, you need wings. So somebody has to stitch wings for her. Reno says that, "I know who had stitched those wings for her, who had basically helped her to fly away." And in this case, it is undoubtedly Lorenzo who is the tailor who gave her wings, who gave her the capacity to fly away, to run away from her father. Celanio says, "And Shylock for his own part knew the bird was fledged, and then it is the complexion of them all to leave the dam." Now, Celanio says that, "Shylock, you are a father. You must have known that you could not keep your daughter forever in your house, because it is the nature of daughters to one day get married and go and settle in someone else's house. So you know that your daughter was fledged." That means he is again continuing the bird metaphor, but he tries to say that your daughter was matured enough to take a decision about marriage. And as she was matured enough to take a decision about marriage, so it was natural, it is habitual that she went away with a man whom she liked. So it is the complexion, it is the nature, it is the habit of birds. When they grow up, they no longer stay with their families, they leave their nest. Similarly, the daughters also, when they grow up, they no longer stay with their fathers, they leave the family house and go away, move out with their husbands. Shylock says, "She is damned for it." Damned means cursed. So I think Jessica is cursed for it. Celanio says, "That is certain, if the devil may be her judge." Celanio says that she can be judged, Jessica can be damned only if the devil judges her. If God judges her, she will not be cursed. Shylock says, "My own flesh and blood to rebel." Shylock says, "I can't believe that my own daughter, my own flesh and blood, she has rebelled against me. She has done this to me." Celanio says, "Out upon it, old carrion, rebels it at these years." Shylock says, "I say my daughter is my flesh and blood." Celarino says, "There is more difference between thy flesh and hers than between jet and ivory, more between your bloods than there is between red wine and Rhenish. But tell us, do you hear whether Antonio have had any loss at sea or no?" So Celarino says that, "You are already very old. What do you talk about your flesh and blood?" And Shylock says, "I am not speaking about my flesh and blood. I mean my daughter. My daughter is also a part of my body. She is a part of me. So by flesh and blood, I mean my daughter." So Celarino says that, "No, don't consider Jessica as your flesh and blood, because there is as much difference in your flesh and Jessica's flesh as there is between jet and ivory. Jet is a very dark black colored substance and ivory is pure white in color. The tusk of elephant is ivory. So just as jet and ivory have opposite colors, similarly your and Jessica's flesh is very opposite of each other. And if you compare the bloods, then I think the difference between your blood and Jessica's blood is just as the difference between red wine and Rhenish wine. Red wine is obviously from the name, it is red in color, and Rhenish wine is white in color. So just as white wine and red wine is different from each other, similarly your blood and Jessica's blood is different from each other. Why does he say so? Obviously because he is trying to suggest that Jessica in character, in personality, is not at all similar to you. She is quite different from you. Now he changes the topic. He says that, but tell us if you have heard anything about Antonio's business or Antonio's losses. Shylock says, there I have another bad match. Now this speech is important because you can get a quotation from here and they can ask you why, who is the bad match, or why is he called the bad match. So Antonio has been called the bad match because Antonio is now a bankrupt according to Shylock. So Shylock says, there I have another bad match, a bankrupt, a prodigal who dare scare show his head on the Rialto. So Antonio has been a bankrupt because he has lost all his wealth according to Shylock, and he is a prodigal. That means he is wasteful. He wasted away his wealth, and now he is so ashamed of himself that he can't even show his face at the Rialto. Shylock calls Antonio a beggar that was used to come so smug upon the mart. So Antonio has now become a beggar, but once upon a time he used to come in such a grand manner to the Rialto. So smug upon the mart means to approach or to come to the Rialto in a grand way, in a bold way. So obviously Antonio was the biggest merchant in whole Venice. Naturally, when he approached the Rialto, he came to the Rialto, he came in with a lot of flair, he came in with a lot of grandeur. So that same Antonio, according to Shylock, is so ashamed now that he can't even show his face in the Rialto. Let him look to his bond. He was wont to call me usurer. Let him look to his bond. So now Shylock gives the threatening. He says that now it's time that Antonio should be careful about his bond. Look to his bond means to be careful about his bond. Why? Because Shylock had been insulted by Antonio repeatedly for taking interest on his money. So Antonio had called Shylock usurer, somebody who takes your possession by fraud, by cheating. So Shylock had been called usurer because he used to take interest on the money that he lent. Now Shylock is going to take revenge for this insult. So he says, let him look to his bond. He was wont to lend money for a Christian courtesy. Let him look to his bond. Christian courtesy means out of religious sentiments, out of kindness preached by Christianity. Antonio used to give money to people without any interest. So now Shylock is going to punish him for doing that. Saladino says, why, I am sure if he forfeit, thou wilt not take his flesh. What's that good for? Salarino is just confirming. He said that according to the bond, you have written that if Antonio fails to pay his money within 3 months, then you will take 1 pound of flesh. I am sure you are joking. You are not going to take his flesh, right? Now Shylock's next speech is very, very important. One of the most important speeches in Merchant of Venice. He justifies why he has to take the flesh of Antonio. He justifies his revenge. So we will discuss the significance of this speech. Let's first understand it. Shylock says, to bait fish withal. So Salarino is asking him a question. Why do you want to take the flesh? What is the use of the flesh? Shylock says, I am going to bait fish with the flesh. I am going to catch fish. Put those, cut the flesh into pieces, put it in my fishing rod or fishing net and trap fish with that net. If not anything else. Obviously he is saying this in anger. He doesn't mean that he is going to use it for feeding the fish. He says, if it will feed nothing else, it will feed my revenge. So human flesh is inedible, you can't eat it. So what will you do if you can't satisfy your hunger with that flesh? It will satisfy his hunger for revenge. So he is going to take the flesh of Antonio in order to satisfy his hunger for revenge from Antonio. Why? He gives the justification now. He says, he hath disgraced me. That means he has had insulted me and hindered me 500,000. He means Antonio, prevented Shylock from making huge profits. See how this happened was, Antonio was one moneylender who gave money to people, who gave loan to people without taking any interest. On the other hand, Shylock was another moneylender who gave loan to people with interest. So obviously people went to Antonio, and that spoiled the business of Shylock. So that is one reason he wants to take revenge. Next he says, laughed at my losses, mocked at my gains. So whenever I did business and I had losses, Antonio showed pleasure at my loss. And whenever I made profit, he insulted me for making my profit. He laughed at me for making my profit. Scorned my nation. Scorned means insulted, nation means religion. So this is something we have seen right from the beginning of the drama. Shylock was insulted for being a Jew in Venice. Thwarted my bargains. So Antonio sometimes played tricks to destroy the business of Shylock. Maybe Shylock was about to have a deal with some other businessman, but Antonio spoilt, thwarted, destroyed that business deal. Cooled my friends, heated mine enemies. So those who wanted to support Shylock, Antonio tried to turn them against Shylock. And those who were the enemies of Shylock, Antonio just fueled their fire of enmity or anger against the Shylock. So what's his reason? What is the reason that Antonio did all these things? I am a Jew. So everything that Antonio did was only because I belong to a different religion. It was his religious prejudice that caused Antonio to behave with me like this. Now he says, hath not a Jew eyes, hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions? So he says that I am a Jew, but before that I am a human being. So don't you think that the Jews have eyes like normal human beings, or the Jews do not have hands or organs or dimensions, the body structure, or senses, feelings, emotions like normal human beings? Don't you think I don't have them just because I am a Jew? Fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapon. So before being a Jew or a Christian, we are after all human beings. So we eat the same food or very similar food. We are hurt with the same weapons. We can get injured with the same sword or the same arrows. Subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means. So when the diseases come, be it a plague or any other disease which were very common in those days, consumption, etc., these diseases did not differentiate between a Jew and a Christian. It affected them equally. Nature did not make them differently, and neither did it treat them differently. So they were affected by the same virus and bacteria, and they were cured also by the same medicine, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer. Even the seasons did not have different impact. The heat of the summer burned the skin of the Jews and Christians alike, and the chill of the winter made them shiver alike, as a Christian is. So he is trying to establish here that both Jews and Christians are human beings, and there is no difference in their physical, biological composition. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you prick, that means if you use a pointed needle and prick the skin of a Jew, obviously he is going to bleed, and the same red blood is going to come out as it would from the body of a Christian. If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? So, just like any normal human being, if you tickle, we laugh. If you poison us, we die. If you do something wrong to us, any normal human being will try to take revenge, and so shall I, or so shall we. If we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. So, if there is no difference physically, biologically between a Christian and a Jew, then there should not be any difference as far as taking revenge is considered. If a Jew wrong a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. So if some Jew does something wrong to the Christian, what do you think the Christian will do? Obviously take revenge from him for doing wrong. If a Christian wrong a Jew, what should his sufferance be by Christian example? And if what if the opposite happens? What if a Christian person does something wrong towards a Jewish person? What do you think, according to your Christian religion, according to your Christian morality, what do you think should be the reaction of the Jewish person? Tell me, what should be the behavior of the Jewish person if he has been wronged by a Christian? Why? Revenge. So, of course, if a Christian can take revenge from a Jew, Jew as well can take revenge from a Christian. The villainy you teach me, I will execute, and it shall go hard, but I will better the instruction. So it is you people, the Christian community of Venice, that has taught me all these evil means. You have all insulted me, hurt me, and showed me how wicked you are. Now I have learned that same wickedness from you, and see how I return that wickedness back to you. So, you people are my teachers, you have taught me, and now I am going to return that instruction that you had given me earlier. So, he is trying to justify his revenge in this extract. See, to some extent, what he says is absolutely correct. We have seen just a few moments ago also, I pointed out that Salanio and Salarino calls him a devil just because he is believing in a different religion. So he, as a Jew, had to suffer, no doubt, in the community. And if he suffers, then definitely he is expected to, after a point of time when it becomes too much for any person to suffer, he obviously protests, he obviously revolts against suppression. But the way Shylock revolts is not acceptable. Maybe Antonio had insulted him, hurt him, injured him in different ways, but he did not kill him. So nobody has the right to take the life that God has given. And even Shylock, despite all the humiliations that he faced, he did not have the right to take the life of Antonio. So if we are asked whether the revenge of Shylock is justified or not, then in one way we can just simply say that no, he is justified to protest, he is justified to be angry against all the oppression. But the way he had chosen to show his anger, the way he had chosen to punish Antonio is far beyond acceptance. Just at this moment, a servant enters the stage, and he comes and informs Salanio and Salarino. He says, "Gentlemen, my master Antonio is at his house and desires to speak with you both." Salarino says, "We have been up and down to seek him." So servant comes with a message from Antonio that Antonio has been looking for you both, so please come and meet him. And Salarino says that yes, even we wanted to meet him, so let's go. Just at that moment, another Jewish character enters the stage. So we are going to continue that in the next video.